Hello, Austin, Texas, and welcome back to the Home Team 512 with Colton and Jenna. Jenna being our superstar real estate expert that we brought to the program to go over everything real estate. So we have been gone for a while, and we're very excited to be back because we think it's a great time to be talking to you guys about what's going in the housing market, because there are a lot of things right now that I would just say are completely misunderstood.
100%.
I mean, all we're hearing about right now is nothing but how there's so much inventory. That's all. It's all over the news. Inventory, 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 inventory is up. But if you look at the data, we just barely hit 2019 levels. Like in the last month or two, we're where we're at 2019.
Yeah, and by that, you mean inventory,
Inventory.
not pricing.
Yes, yes, and that's
It's not
another
that
thing.
bad, everybody.
Because I mean, obviously, there was a big boom and then there was a retraction, right? And I mean, that happens with everything. I call it the slinky effect. Everything stretched out as far as it could. We were having year-over-year appreciation at 40% in
Yeah,
Austin.
definitely not normal.
Yeah,
Not sustainable.
and that went for like what, 18 months?
Yeah,
And so the slinky just got stretched out so far that at some point it
Kinda
snapped
snaps
back.
back.
And when it
100%.
snaps back, it's kind of painful.
Yeah.
And you would think that we would have better prepared people for this, knowing history and everything else. And I don't think that we did. I think we as real estate experts were just kind of we were so busy just trying to take care of what was going on that we didn't really start preparing people for. But I think the biggest misconception is because sales are what, 1995 levels as far as unit sales.
Yes, like we've had not very good quarters this year as compared to over the last 10 years
Mhm.
in the Austin market. So it's been a little bit more rougher when it comes to the inventory, but what we're having, just like you said, where we had this huge appreciation, we have a lot of sellers whose minds are still at those price points. And a lot of times, people want to test the market. They want to see what happens if they price higher because they're like, oh, well, I can always come down on the price. But usually what we've seen is we give people a price and then they want to price higher and then we're chasing that price down because as we're making price reductions, there's other people who came in at lower prices to compete because that's what you're essentially doing is you're
Mhm.
competing. And so chasing that down, you're losing momentum with days on market.
Mhm.
Then we have more inventory on the market and buyers always come in waves, right? Like
Mhm.
they come in usually during the school seasons. They want to close to get their kids into school or start their jobs in that, right before summer ends. Then it slows down and picks back up in the middle of October, which that's what I'm predicting. So we're going to see a big pickup in the middle of October
Mhm.
as far as people wanting to get into the market. But we have a lot of inventory. So that for sellers, all they hear is, "Oh my gosh, my home price is going to go up." That's not what it is. Your house is hopefully going to sell if you have it priced right. What really is going on is buyers can get in and get a really good deal.
Mhm.
And you've had sellers kind of experience that they're not getting these high prices. People aren't lining up to buy their homes if their home needs work, if it's overpriced, or if they're not willing to compete with what's around them.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the biggest thing about our market that I think people don't understand is that it is based off of comparables. So no matter what your home is doing, it has to be comparable with the general neighborhood.
Yes.
So if you're trying to price it out, I use real estate terms at $225 a foot, and every house in the neighborhood's at 215 a foot, it's going to take a lot for somebody to come look at your house because there are 5 or 6 more houses in the area that they could easily look at. It's still a good time because even with the depressed sales, right? Because like I said, we're at like 1995 unit levels as far as sales. We still had a national average appreciation of almost 4%, like 3.9. So even with the reduction in sales and the increase in inventory, the values of the homes are still going up nationwide. Now, Austin's a little out because we had, the rest of the country didn't have 40%
Yeah.
year-over-year appreciation for like 18 months. So Austin did experience, I think about, was it 8%? An 8%
We
on average
definitely, yes. I mean, it
depreciation?
depends on like where you're at, location
Mhm,
wise, neighborhood wise, even like our metro area. Depending on where you're looking, some properties are up and some are down.
mhm,
So it just depends on that. But it's like with supply and demand. We had such an influx of people moving here. We did not have inventory. I mean, we had
mhm.
1 or 2 days of inventory at most for a while there,
Yeah.
if you could even count that. And so to look at that supply and demand, we just have a huge amount of supply right now and the demand is still we still have a small amount of demand. It's not completely dead, but you're competing. So you have to make sure that your house is ready and it's move-in ready. Buyers are not looking to do, fixing up a property when they buy it. They want to buy something that they can walk into and feel like it's priced,
Mhm.
accordingly.
Yeah, and, there are the other buyers, you kinda brought up a great point. There are buyers that are looking for fixer-up opportunities, but when they're looking for fixer-up opportunities, they're looking for fixer-up opportunity prices.
100%.
And that's where I think the seller and the buyer don't get together, and that's when having an excellent realtor like yourself that can kinda bring them both together is that if you have a fixer-up home, it has to be a fixer-up price because
100%.
because if I'm gonna come in and spend, $30,000, I'm expecting, $50 to $70,000 worth of value out of that
Yeah.
$30,000,
Well, you have to account for all your costs.
Mhm.
It's the same thing with people selling right now, right? When they're starting high and a home is sitting vacant, you have holding costs on your investment. And so for some people, they could be sitting there for 6 months and not wanting to drop their price and are not wanting to change anything.
Mm.
And I think that's like you're bleeding out because you have a holding cost. You're paying monthly to hold on to that property. How long are you going to hold it versus looking at the actual numbers? Because the numbers don't lie. We can't manipulate those. Those are what they are.
Oh, trust me, the appraiser lets me know that every time I call him.
Well, and with that being said, the seller is looking to get out of the home and into another home, so it kind of hinders their ability to do so most of the time.
For sure, especially if they've had to relocate for work, which we've seen a lot of lately, right, is people are paying to stay somewhere else and then have that other property sitting there. So coming in, pricing right, making sure that you're looking at the data is really important. Just you can't overprice and expect for people to come and buy it at that price point.
And now I think it's more important. The realtor is more important today for that than any other time because I have seen that, good realtors, they're busy, right? And not good realtors aren't busy, I mean, because they know what they're doing, they know the market, they know how to educate the buyer or the seller and move that up. Whereas, before it was stick a sign in the yard and sell a home, and
Yeah.
those days are gone, and having something like, you do the list report where you do the listing presentation and you show all that sort of stuff. Social media is so much more important. So with list reports, it creates everything for you. So you can have that, you can shoot it out on Facebook, Instagram,
Yeah.
all the others. We see my white beard, I don't know them all. Submarine, I think is
He doesn't
one.
even know what TikTok is.
Yeah, yeah. So, so that's having the right person in the right positions is more important than ever, even in mortgages,
Yeah.
because right now, we tease every loan's a hard loan, because right now,
Right.
it's just, affordability is an issue. So getting people in the right programs and things like that where they can qualify is a big deal. So,
Yeah.
in mortgage professionals, because as my company, I oversee a lot of people, and we're picking up a lot of deals that didn't close at other places just because they weren't originated correctly,
And
not
that yeah.
because the bar didn't qualify. It's because
And
the
Troy
person
has
who.
saved a lot of mine. Like and they're not even my clients. Like I have the selling side of it. My job is to sell your home. So if there's a problem, we're gonna solve the
Yeah.
problem if we can. And Troy has saved on the other side with buyers that are not my clients at all and close the transactions for us.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, most of the save-a deals come from listing agents
Yeah.
now. I mean, and so, it's a good time. It really is. It's funny to me because I think everybody's in this, "Oh, the rates are gonna go down, so
Yeah.
I'll wait, I'll wait, I'll wait." Um
Well, wanted to touch back on though that
Mhm.
you were talking about affordability because
Yep.
that's a huge thing right now is affordability with buyers. A lot of buyers will reach out to me, especially repeat clients of mine. And in their head, they're expecting for payments to be like when they bought 5, 6 years
Mm.
ago, and they're not at that.
Mm-mm.
It's like if you go look at a car right now, right? Like in my head, I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have to pay more than $300 a month for a car payment. And then you get there and they like laugh at
It's
you.
like
Yeah.
And
insurance
they're like,
nowadays.
no, that's
It's like
not
I
going to
want a
happen.
$300,000 house, but a $1,500 a month payment.
Yes, and honestly, I don't blame them because that was the norm back then.
Mhm.
So what we do is we say, hey, we need to go ahead and apply, have Troy look at things because number one, you see what type of loan program you qualify for. We can look at if we when we sell your home, how much equity you have to go towards another house and what those payments are because affordability is really all that matters. Now, if you don't have a home and you're looking to buy, Troy had recently come out with this
Mhm.
great first time home buyer program. And I love when you can get people into properties and have them build wealth when they don't really have the money to do so. We call that leverage, using other people's money in order to, be able to have something in your own name for your family. But I do have questions on it because this is newer.
Mhm.
I haven't been able to use this yet with Troy. So I'm very excited about
Yeah.
this.
So basically, it's the traditional down payment assistance programs that we've always had. But one of the things it's FHA, and FHA allows up to 6%, right? But you can never really use 6% on a $500,000 house going DPA because closing costs, they're typically, 3 to 5%, right? At the most, at worst case. But with DPAs and things like that, you don't you get 6%. Let's just say it's $500,000 house and you get 6%, that's $30,000. Well, we can't use all of that.
Gotta hate the minimum
Yeah,
required does.
you have to have a minimum, 3.5 coming from that. So we can't use all that 30,000. Well, now the state-sponsored down payment assistance program will allow you to take the excess of that 6% seller concession and apply it to lower the rate, and that's never happened before. So those rates are traditionally higher than FHA, so let's just say FHA is 6.5, then the down payment assistance rate would be probably 7 1/8, right, as an
Yeah.
example. So you're paying higher payment or higher interest because they're using those funds to pay back the down payment assistance. That's where nothing's for free, right?
Yeah.
Everybody, well, now they will allow you to apply to buy down the rate. So you could still get a rate equal to today's FHA rates using 100% everybody else's.
And also getting a grant towards your
Well,
closing costs and still meeting your minimum required
yeah,
investment.
yeah.
So,
And that's big for us in general because before, when we were looking at doing this type of programs, a lot of people's price point, affordability wise, right, was really low because the interest rate was so high. And it was something just across the board. We couldn't get that down. So to be able to utilize this is a huge advantage for you if you're a first time home buyer. And as far as a first time home buyer definition, Troy, what is that right now?
That's someone who hasn't owned a home in the last 3 years and they've expanded it. So now if you are divorced or separated, legally, not just because you got mad and moved out. There's a difference. It's America, guys. But if you're divorced or separated and the other spouse, the ex, kept the property, you can now qualify as a first-time home buyer. Now, we do have to document all this, of course, but yeah. So now it's 3 years if you haven't owned a home in 3 years, or if you just recently separated from someone and they kept the house, you can qualify as first-time home buyer program.
Okay. So if somebody utilizes this, is this forgiven?
So there are several programs. The more expensive ones will be a true grant. So that when I say expensive, the higher rates, could be a true grant that is completely forgiven in 6 months, or most of them are forgiven in 3 years.
So it sounds like it's forgiven, it just depends on the timing. So
Right.
either 6 months or 3 years.
Right. Oh, yes.
Okay,
Yes, there are some that are not forgiven. We don't actually do those because I don't like those.
great.
So that is the only disadvantage to this program is that if the rates do fall dramatically in the next year, which no one's predicting that, but if they do, you either have to pay that grant or lean back, or you wait till the 3 years to refinance.
Well, so you brought up a really good topic about, the rates falling, right? They fall dramatically type of thing. What I've noticed is the news keeps saying like, "Hey, the interest rates have dropped." And then we send people to apply. Usually that's when they reach out, right? Because they've heard on the news that the rates have dropped. Then they go to apply and the rates seem to be back up. Can you kind of touch base on what you would recommend people do when it comes to that?
They just listen to us. We watch them every day. And so when the rates are down and we say lock, lock. If the rates are up, they're up and it's time to go. Hey, we hope you've enjoyed this segment of our show. We will be back. We're going to go over refinancing and things like that. If you want to reach out to me, it's loansfromtroy.com. Thanks for watching. Hello, Austin, Texas, and welcome to the Home Team 512. We're so glad to be talking to you guys. We hope you enjoy what we have to say. In this segment, we're going to be talking about finances, and it's real estate and finances. And what's going on in today's market is that we have been in a much higher interest rate environment, and the interest rates have now settled, and they're starting to squeeze down. And one day you're going to look up, and you could save $300 or $400 a month and not even know it. So we think we need to explain kind of why it's important, what you need to know, what you need to be looking for, and things like that about refinances. I mean, Jenna here is being our resident real estate expert is going to kind of help us as far as values and how they determine what they're doing and things like that. Because uh, one of the things that people don't understand is that when you refinance, there's a cost to refinance because there is no seller in a refinance. So you are, in a sense, you're the buyer and the seller. But here at Security National, for select people, we can actually cut the cost of the title policy completely out. If your home and your previous loan qualify, you won't have to pay a title policy. You'll just pay an $85 recertification fee. And on a $400,000 loan, that's like $2,500 you do not have to spend on a refinance. That is something that very few people offer, and Security National Mortgage is one of those very few people. So, you know, right now,
It's a big savings.
it's a big
It is.
space. Yeah.
It's a long way.
And right now you got to think, and the rate of inflation, right? I think it gets confusing, but the rate of inflation has stabilized. We're 2.5 to 2.9 pretty much every time it comes out, right? So it's stabilized. So we're not doing that 9 or 10%. But what people are, what people don't think about is that 9 or 10%, it's still baked into the price.
Yeah.
So you're still paying, 4 years ago, the cost of things are still 25% higher than they were when you bought your house. So you bought a home and your budget is right in line with that home. Well, now all of a sudden groceries are up 20%, electricity's up 20%. Well, now all of a sudden you're squeezed. You're spending an extra $400 or $500 a month just on normal stuff. Plus property values are still going up no matter what you think, especially in Travis County. Those tax assessors are very, very adamant that your property is worth more. So that's gone up. Insurance has gone up. So now, where let's say you had $1,000 discretionary income when you bought your house, you may only have $200 or $300 discretionary income today. Just everything staying the same because the rate of income is going up, but it's basically matching inflation, right? I think the last report was 3.5. So you had a 2.9% inflation rate, you had a 3.5 income growth. So you really didn't gain a lot. And so, you know, refinancing is a way to help you with that. Rates were between 7 to 8.5 over the last 2 years.
No par
Well,
rates.
yeah, you were having to spend a little money to do that. Well, now all of a sudden the rates are in the sixes. So if you were one of the ones that purchased in the eights, it's a great time to refinance. And people don't really realize that because all they hear is rates are high because they're relating it to
COVID time.
yeah, COVID. They're like, well, rates are high. Well, historically, they're not high. The sixes is a historic number. Yeah. And so they're not high, but because of the cost of the home and taxes and insurance, the affordability makes that 6% higher, right?
Sure.
But if you, one of the things I think people can understand is that if you're escrowing your taxes and insurance, right, and you do a refinance, in the middle of the year, you'll get that back in cash. So if you refinance in like a September, right, you've got 9 to 11 months of taxes in there. Now we would so we would put that 9 to 11 months of insurance or taxes into your new loan,
Yeah.
but you would get that cash. And if you're at 6.5%, and these are just arbitrary numbers because they change every day. I'm just throwing them out there, so I don't want people to think that's the number.
Yeah.
Good
Note
or
to
bad.
self,
Good or
if
good
this
or
even
bad.
sounds remotely like maybe you want to look at refinancing, reach out to Troy because, like he said, those rates, they're constantly changing.
Yeah, I mean, 'cause let's think about it. You've got 11 months of taxes, right? At $500. That's $5,500 you've got sitting at an escrow. Now we put it back. We established 5,500 on your new loan, but you get that check back. Well, if you have a credit card that you've been using or in firm payments, oh, I hate this. You've been using, I mean, $5,500 pays a credit card off, and you're paying 23% interest on that credit card. That's a huge deal.
100%.
As our show grows and progresses, we will definitely be getting into the finances and how credit cards are the scourge of the world, and that if you spend any money on a credit card and you don't pay it off, I think we need to talk, and I need to teach you how to get out of that.
This is the money guy. I call him a
Yeah.
money guy for a reason because
Yeah.
he moves things around that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's another thing I think that people need to understand about refinances because let's just say, all right, so I ran the quick numbers. If you bought a house for 400,000, you put 20% down, 320,000 loan amount at At 3%, your payments were like 1350 for the house, principal and so no taxes, no insurance, right? If you do, and let's say your house is now worth 500,000, you can borrow 400,000. Okay, so that gives you $80,000 in cash. Your house payment would go up about $1,200, like 1187, at 6%, and on a refinance, and you 400,000. So now you can take that $80,000 and wipe out your debt.
All your debt.
Yeah.
You know, and
At that lower interest rate.
and then your total debt, right? So let's just say you've got a $1,300 house payment. We're just excluding taxes and insurance because those will always stay the same. A $1,300 house payment, you move it to $2,500, but you pay off $2,000 of credit debt, or most people, I mean, it's a lot more than that, but
Yeah.
let's just say 2,000. That still means you have $800 discretionary income that you can now I mean, there's a big difference because, I've grown up in every segment of the economic spectrum. Okay. I mean, I've had nothing, I've had a lot. I mean, I've grown up in every segment. And trust me, when you are worried about just making bills day in and day out, it puts a stress on you that you cannot enjoy your life, and your family, you have a family, you have a life, and we can help you with that, but a lot of people get stuck on well, I'm losing the 3%, but you're gaining $800 a
Mhm.
month,
Yeah.
you
Well,
know?
and it can be scary hearing that your monthly payment for your mortgage is gonna go up 1,000, 800, whatever it is. However, whenever you break it down that way and you go, "Hey, my monthly payment's going up 1,000, however, I'm paying off 2,000 in debt," like you said, you're gonna have that discretionary income of
Yeah.
$1,000 a month,
I mean,
and
that's
it's 12 grand a year.
It's yeah, and that's the hardest part because we do get fixated on the interest rate,
Yeah.
right? And I think that it's the total cost of living, and everything, and this is the money person's been coming at me. Everything starts with a budget. So when you do your budget, then it's a lot easier for me to help you see the benefits of a refinance. And I think a lot of people are stuck because they hear, I mean, I still people, "Oh, my interest rate's this." They talk about, and,
Yeah.
they're excited, because it's a badge of honor, I still,
Yeah.
but, and then the other question I always hear is, "Well, I think I'm gonna wait till the rates get back in the 3s." So,
Gonna be waiting
eh,
for a
eh
while.
Well, yeah, or we have to have a big problem. You got to get them down into trees, and then usually nobody can buy
Yeah.
when they're there. So, I don't see that happening
Mhm.
anytime soon.
Well, the last time it happened was in the '50s, and it took a depression and a world war to cause that. So that was and the reason why it happened was because the reason that it happened the last time in the '50s is because, nobody was working. Everybody was working for the military, right? Everybody was, there was, they were doing all, women started working, but they started working for military supplies and stuff like that. So then all of a sudden you have all of these troops that were overseas now come back and they flooded the job market. So that's what caused rates to go down. People don't understand that. That was a dramatic, I mean, because you gotta think there was, what, 30,000 people that just jumped into the job market back then overnight, and these were people that had jobs and had things, and so, the government had to stimulate the economy to grow it because they need, and so that's when we became kind of a manufacturing,
Mhm.
Yeah.
dishwashers became important, refrigerators became important, so we needed manufacturing, so we created manufacturing jobs by reducing the cost of those, so there was more things needed, so they created jobs by lowering that. That was the last time that it happened, so it wasn't catastrophic as like COVID was, but it was still the same effect because in COVID, they shut the economy down for at minimum 3 months for everybody, and so nobody had a job. Well, then all of a sudden they opened it back up and then people flooded the market again. And so it was kind of the same thing. So it would take an event like that to get your rates back into the threes. And I'm not sure that that's something that you should be waiting for because like I said, the last time was 70 years ago. So theoretically, we're about 70 years.
Yeah.
If you want to know, that's my answer every time somebody asks. I had to fully explain it because people don't understand because people feel that it was a natural economic move, and it
Yeah.
wasn't. It was a drastic move to save the economy, and, we really don't want a drastic move to save the economy.
Well, I like the way that you look at it as like if somebody has high debt with their credit cards up in the 20 something percent that they're paying, and then if they look at refinancing, yes, their mortgage going it probably is gonna go up a little bit, but they're taking away all that debt.
Mm,
And the thing I love about working with Troy is he's very good about telling somebody if this is a good move or not
mm.
for them. And that's number one reason I do business with you is you're just honest with
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, sometimes it's not a good move. I
Yeah.
mean, if it's you're just saving 50, $75, I mean, that becomes a very personal decision. Is 50, $75 going to change your life? And if the answer is no, then let's wait. But if sometimes the answer is yes, and sometimes we have to move forward, you
But
know?
the good news is if they wait, right, you're gonna be calling them
Mm,
when it's a good time for them to do it, which that's what I always like too. And I know you brought up a good point about your escrow account with taxes and insurance.
mhm,
Every year, I help people with protesting their property
mm,
taxes. And when it comes to insurance, we have great insurance agents that we would love to refer y'all to shop
mhm.
your insurance and just see how you can save money.
Yeah, and that's something that is new to me because until the last 3 years, I never really shopped my home insurance, right? Because insurances were all very comparable and this and that. Well, now all of a sudden, they're all over the place.
They're crazy.
So every year, I shop my insurance, every
Yeah,
single year,
I do too.
every single year, and if I could save, 3 or $400 there,
There's some people
that
that they save thousands.
yeah,
Like I have people call me and they're paying like $8,000 a year for their home insurance.
yes.
I'm like, oh, something's
Why?
wrong.
Yeah. And one of the things that when you are shopping for homeowners insurance, you need to be aware of is that they're changing the deductibles. So you used to have 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 1%, 2%, 5%. Not anymore. It's like 2%.
Yeah, that's like the lowest is at 2%. Yeah, now. So you that's something you want to consider before you do change, especially if you're in a higher risk area. Because I'm in a higher risk area where that hailstorm happened.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's Austin. Every 4 years, we're gonna have a hailstorm, and that's one of the reasons why our insurance has gone up. Housing values have gone up because you gotta think, if you're at 2% deductible and you have a $500,000 house, that means the first $10,000 is covered by you.
yeah.
So you do need to pay attention to that. And so the best plan of action that I could suggest is that if you are pinched and you're still good, but you're still pinched, reach out. Of course, there's the QR code, the easiest way to reach out to us. You could reach out and we will go over it and we will say, hey, look, you need to save X. Let's just say $300, and at $300, that's going to be 0.75% for you, right? So then we'll put a strike. We'll watch the rates, we'll put a strike rate in there. The strike rate will hit, we'll reach out and say, "Hey, we've got this, let's get rolling." So, that's the best way to do because you don't wanna miss it. Because the last time the rates were that low, they were only that low for like a month, and so by the time we reached out to everybody, the rates had already climbed back up, and a lot of people missed opportunities because we weren't prepared. We definitely wanna make sure we're prepared for it this time, and so reaching out to us, ahead of time, getting it going, and then we will then, we'll get everything ready for you, and you won't miss it. Hey, we hope you've enjoyed this. If you have any questions, reach out to me at loansfromtroy.com or give me a call at 855-299-HOME, and we'll see you next week.